Raffaele, how are you doing? Great to
I'm
great to
great.
see you.
I'm great. Thank you. And thank you, Gabriel, for the invitation and this amazing event. And I'm happy to be with you today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I guess a little background on how we're connected before we're started. I'll give a short little background, but basically, you and I were connected through Linda Rottenberg, the global CEO of Endeavor. And I emailed her last, I think it must have been in July, through one of my close friends, Ben Bronfman, and Edgar, his father, is the chairman of Endeavor. And you and I were chatting about tech in Italy and how we could really tell the world what's going on in Italy through Techtalia. So I was wondering, could you give a little bit about your background and then a little bit on Endeavor?
Of course. My background is in venture capital investing. So I spent my career mainly in helping high-tech entrepreneurs to grow and scale over time. I started with United Ventures, which was a fund created by the former creator of Google in Italy. So investing in digital and mobile technologies. And then I also worked in banking. And finally, I started Endeavor in Italy, the Endeavor chapter in Italy. And so what we do with Endeavor, we help scale up companies to solve their specific problems. So we help entrepreneurs to access capital, access talent, and access international markets, which is fundamental if you want to, to join the next level of your operations.
Absolutely. And I guess a question that we were thinking about even during some of the pre-questions was, okay, so Italy and tech in Italy isn't super present outside of Milano, right? What have you seen specifically at Endeavor over the last few years since starting to sort of help inspire entrepreneurs, regardless of their age and their background, to work on tech businesses in Italy?
So there are several lines of action. For the entrepreneurs, it's fundamental to be in contact with other people, other peers, with similar challenges, but maybe in other geographies or in other industries. So for the entrepreneur, for he or she, it's fundamental to talk with people in Brazil, Indonesia, United States with similar problems and have a neutral point of view, because often in your local ecosystem, there are distorted perspectives or the provincial approach to things. And so this is the very first thing. And I would say the cultural component is the most important one. Secondly, we also have them operationally with the network. So in order to raise your next round or to hire your CTO or your county manager in a different country, you need some kind of local presence, and Endeavor is present on 35 countries, and this is helpful for the entrepreneurs.
And do you think having the global network of Endeavor and then the viewpoint of Italy, what does Italy bring to the table to the Endeavor network, and how are some examples that you've seen? What are some examples that you've seen, let's say from one Endeavor entrepreneur that's been able to use their network in Italy and then the Endeavor network globally to help their business and help Italy as well?
Okay, so there are several, I would say several examples, but I'll give you one. For instance, One Tray, which is a company which is producing a very, I would say, unsexy product, but actually it's a sexy business model. So they do the trays for the airports, okay? But with a business,
they do the trays for the airports.
They trays for the metal detector.
Yeah. So like TSA pre-check here, or in
exactly.
Heathrow, the nightmare in Heathrow.
Exactly. Actually, they are present in Heathrow. They are in that airport, and but the business model is flipped. So the client, the airport, does not pay the tray or pay a very low price, and they make money with advertising. So like Google, like Facebook. Yep. And so what we did, we introduced them
let me stop you there 1 second. So the business model, basically, it's the same Silicon Valley business model. We're going to give the product away basically for free almost, exactly. Or a nominal fee. And then we're going to make money like Facebook or Google or YouTube even in Google with ads. And those ads are going to pay revenue that can scale beyond what the cost of the actual tray is.
Exactly. So it's like a banner on a website, but is on a physical product, which is seen by millions of people across time, like in major airports.
Awesome.
And for instance, in this case, we help the entrepreneur to be in contact with several locations, airports, even in developing countries, emerging economies, and so on. This is an example from the operational point of view. For other entrepreneurs, I would say the mentorship component is also very relevant. A typical scale-up problem is when you are growing from like 20 people in your team to 200 people in your team. Because when you reach 150, 200 people in your team, as an entrepreneur, you need to fire yourself from some of the roles.
Yeah, some of the roles, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you cannot do everything. You need to hire a C-levels
Yep.
and marketing officers and CFOs in order to properly scale the company effectively.
And I guess looking, going even back to the Italian viewpoint, because, the title of our panel is sort of Italy, why now? I'd be interested to hear, and I think our audience would be interested to hear is, okay, so Italy is a third largest economy in Europe, right? Has incredible brands in fashion, manufacturing, transportation. One of our sponsors is Maserati, right? So like everybody knows Italy is, sexy brands, beautiful culture, awesome food. And, the tech side's not hurt as much. What do you think would be important for Italy to do to say, like, let's say over the next 15 years, we need from both an educational and an administrative level, maybe from the government side, to do to help inspire more entrepreneurs to want to build tech companies in Italy?
Okay, I would say there is we need to do locally a combination of things from the capital side. So from the investment side, what we need is to channel private savings into productive investments. Italy has a very high level of private savings on a collective level, but only a very small percentage goes to venture capital and private equity. So that percentage could be increased, and we can build the channels. From the education point of view, I think that one of the most important things is increasing diversity, because we have a problem with women entrepreneurship, and I think there is untapped potential, and the examples and the cultures should start from the school and from the universities. So I think we can do a lot from this point of view, improving and increasing women entrepreneurship. From the legal and taxation point of view, I think investing is not so hard, but there are some aspects of civil law and corporate taxation that could be increased. So I would say a combination of capital, culture, and legal frameworks.
And do you think, okay, so I guess, what we've seen in America, right? In Silicon Valley, there's this we call it a positive feedback loop. And, in the Valley, it's, I started my company 3 years ago, and it was funded mostly by angels that were successful either in the Valley or in Europe. And then I sold the company, and now I'm using some of the proceeds to invest in other companies in my network globally. Does that happen in Italy, or is it still like too early, or is it, like, what have you seen?
Okay. Actually, in Italy, this process of a previous generation of entrepreneurs helping the next one was happening, but only at super local level. So we had the industrial districts in industries like fashion, food, tourism, design that you mentioned before. And the good side was that there was this kind of channel, but only for single industries in very small locations. So what we need to do now is to expand this kind of network effects. Is actually what you are trying to do with Endeavor. So help entrepreneurs to be successful, and then give back to the next generation, both in terms of angel investing or mentorship, or helping ecosystem associations, and generally increasing the level of awareness for entrepreneurship, and helping the other people to succeed if you was successful in the past.
Right. And I actually read something interesting online that in Italy, there's some new sort of immigration policy or tax policy. If I wanted to move to Italy, I think it's 15 years I can defer a certain amount of taxes, or it's $100,000. Are there any other, I'm not super specific on the initiative because I don't even know if it's passed fully yet, but are there any initiatives by the Italian government to support entrepreneurship, support tech entrepreneurship, to develop it a little bit more in Italy, or have you seen it as something that's incredibly challenging right now?
Okay, no, actually, I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot give
Yeah,
you a
yeah.
super specific
Neither am
advice.
I.
But there is a group of initiatives for tax credit for private investments and facilitation of capital investment in capital goods, and also for expats to repatriate or for people to
Yep.
invest locally. So there is a group of measures to actually incentivize entrepreneurship and tech investments locally. This is one of the, I would say, of the good point of the country, but I will not say that is the major one. There are other strengths, I think, in this ecosystem that could be appealing for people from abroad to invest locally or to spend their time or work for a local scale up.
Got it. And could you give us a few examples of successful sort of Italian startups that maybe either started in Italy and then moved abroad, or are currently still in Italy? I know there's a few maybe in the fashion tech side, but what have you seen in the Endeavor network that could be interesting for the attendees? To
Okay,
sort of.
I think that one of the major success stories for startups in Italy now is Bending Spoons. Bending Spoons is a super successful company. They are located in Milan, but they basically sell all over the world. They make mobile applications, but not for their third parties. Basically, they monetize directly the mobile applications, typically in fitness or gaming and very consumer and popular segments.
Yep.
And they are super successful in terms of numbers, growing every year. They are still a large company, and I will say that their team is very unique because they can compete with Google, Facebook, Amazon in attracting the top level developers. So for computer science students in Southern Europe, they are considered a super interesting and competitive environment. So their success is based on talent management, on attracting and retaining the right kind of people, and I think they are an example for the whole ecosystem.
And the other question that I would have is, let's say I'm an international company. I want to build a base in Italy and have a team of engineers or designers in Italy. What, looking at it, let's say if I'm starting my new startup and I need a design and engineering team, do you think Italy is the right place to go to find a group of people to do that? And is the market there for that opportunity as well, like having a second office in Italy?
Okay, in my experience, I will give you the pros and cons. So I will say the pros is for technical talent. I think there is a good stable source of technical talent from the polytechnics in Turin, Milan, and in other cities, also in Rome, and a couple of ones in southern Italy. Typically, we have a good combination of quality with cost, which is for general profiles, I would say like 20% less than France and Germany, and even less in comparison with London. And for technical talent, especially IT talent, even less, but with a good level of quality. So I think that there is a good combination if you're an entrepreneur, if you want to gain resources. On the other hand, I would say it will be a little bit harder to find managerial talent with a specific experience in high growth technology startups. So what companies do typically, they create mixed teams, and most of the successful startups locally start to have very international teams with people from different countries.
Got it. Well, appreciate that overview. So I think we also discussed in sort of our pre-chat, Tectalia, some of the trends that you see happening, because I know you're an expert on startup trends in your career. You've been focused on technology, and the future of technology. We were discussing a little bit about education and the future of education. And, we're on a Zoom call right now, right? We're in this webinar right now, and we're trying to make it as much as possible or be like we're almost in Italy doing this event. And it's still a little difficult, but what do you think is the future of education, and what are some areas that we can look into that might be interesting for even startup founders that are listening to this call that are in between startups, that they might be looking at, education in VR or something like that?
I think that there is a combination of trends that could be also combined together. For instance, the fact that for some industries, the traditional credential system of academic colleges is not working so well now. And so there are new kinds of paths in order to acquire competencies and skills, which are actually growing a lot over time. And the second trend, of course, is digitalization. It was true even before the pandemic, but of course, after the pandemic, I think it's obvious for everyone that we can do things differently. And in general, education is an industry which is ripe for disruption also on the financial, for the point of view of financial schemes. This is a bit more in the United States than in Europe,
yep.
But there are some countries where the cost of education is exploding, and there are market opportunities if you can optimize them. I can give few examples.
Yeah, would love to hear some examples.
United States, there is the great example of Lambda School.
Yep.
They train developers with income share agreements, and very interesting model. There is something similar but with a slightly different model in Europe, created by Italian founders, but in Germany. It's called Strive School.
How do you spell it? Strive School?
Strive, S-T-R School, exactly. And in France, there is a School 42, which is an incredible.
We're in our talk this afternoon with Ricardo, your evening. Ricardo Zacconi, founder of King Candy Crush, we're actually talking about his effort of bringing École 42 to Italy.
I said École 42 or School 42.
Or whatever. I can't pronounce it. I'm American, right?
Yeah, don't worry. Zacconi is a great entrepreneur, and I think the School 42 is one of the examples of a successful disruption in the education industry. But the interesting thing is that we can think about many more. So I think that there is an entire space opening, like fintech, where in different verticals, from payments to money transfer to investment management, there was a wave of innovation. Now time is ripe for a wave of innovation in the edtech.
And do you think for the educational tech, so we said, okay, there's financial issues. Like in the States, it's incredibly expensive to go to college. And right now, look at it, it's the fall semester. And I would say almost every single school is doing virtual classes, and you're not in the classroom, and you're still spending the same amount of tuition to not be in the classroom. So do you think when the financial model changes and more of it's focused on tech education, or even, let's say, not just tech education, it could be tech education plus some other areas, but I think the focus, Lambda School, is tech, right? And teaching people how to code and how to actually apply their engineering schools at work. Do you think from the financial side, once it's modified, those income share agreements are better than paying for it upfront yourself, or what do you think personally?
I think that the answer is not absolute, is relative to the specific ecosystem, because the problem of the cost is very strong in some ecosystems, like in the United States, but in Europe you have a slightly different problems. For instance, in Europe, in most countries, the problem is the lack of connection of the education programs to the world, to the job market.
Yeah.
So there is a huge change of mindset for people delivering, administrators and educators, these kind of programs, in order to connect with the job market and evolve very quickly in order to provide a good service to their students. I think this is a part of the model. And in different also regions of the world, there are slightly different problems. And I think that the financing model will change region by region. So there is not an absolute solution, but a specific solution region by region.
And then I know we would probably have a few questions on this from the audience. We're going to do questions from the audience in a couple of minutes, probably in 5 minutes. So everybody, please make sure you submit your questions to the question and answer session. I did have a question because I have a very close friend in Europe who actually is on the Tectalia team. And he's been researching an educational VR startup. And his passion has always been future technology. And he's trying to figure out how to build something around education. Maybe we could do a little fun brainstorm here. What would you say is, let's say 5 years from now, how would the world look like if everybody had Oculus Quest headsets in VR running on education? Do you think that'll work? Give me 3 reasons why it would work and 3 reasons why it wouldn't work.
Okay, I would say why it will work, because the 3 reasons is that the demographics approaching digital services are changing. So the pandemic basically made even older people to build the habit for
to change. I mean, like we had to change so rapidly, right? There was no going back. We're not going back.
Secondly, the Moore's law is still there, so in different forms, and I think that
can you explain a little bit Moore's law to the audience? I think not everybody knows. Of course, you and I know it. Okay. But
so historically, the Moore's law was an empirical law, so not a scientific law, but a regularity that showed that basically computing power was increasing over time with a reduction of the cost, typically with doublings every 2 years. Now this law is intended even in a larger term, so you can find Moore's laws in different technology streams. You can find, for instance, the reduction in the cost for launching payloads to space, or to decode the genetic, to do genetic testing. So there is a reduction of the cost over the years.
So basically,
and in VR,
in VR every year now it's almost double. It's like doubling every year.
I would not say that it's doubling, but because there are bottlenecks. I think if we are finding some of the good reasons, I would say that it's reasonable to expect that the technology behind will improve. I cannot say how much it will improve, but it's reasonable to say that it will improve. The third reason is the fact that increasingly we have a collective base of devices where you can build up application on top of them. So these are the pros. The cons is that we had like a Gartner cycle, so a hype cycle in VR. So there was an excess of expectations during the last 4 to 5 years. Now people are a bit scared to invest in VR, but probably with a slower pace it will go again. The second reason is that still now it's hard to do some actions. Basic actions are hard to do in VR environments, like typing is not easy in VR. So some of the typical tasks that you do in your job or in the education context are not so easy. So I will say that there is a combination of things. And
what about bandwidth? Do you think bandwidth as well are issues in VR, or what do you think that's going to be solved with 5G over the next year?
5G is considered by many by one of the top enabling factors for VR, but I cannot say. I would say I don't know if for making the applications really on the tipping point it will be enough. So we will see, I think.
Yep, got it. Well, we're now heading into our attendee audience questions. We have a couple of questions here for you. The first one is from Marta. She was wondering, are there any best practices for European female founders to raise funding from American VCs for scaling Series A software as a service companies in the United States? Pretty specific, but yeah. Any suggested best practices?
Okay, I would say I will try to break down the question maybe in small
Yeah.
blocks. So for the specific needs of women entrepreneurs, I think one of the best thing to do is to leverage specific networks. Like in Italy, for instance, we have SheTech, and in several countries there are
Like female founders fund in New
exactly,
York here.
exactly, tailor-made networks that can help you providing support, context, and information for that ecosystem. So I would say, first of all, I'll try to approach these women networks. For the Series A SAS companies, I would say that in comparison with Europe, in my experience, the context in the United States is much, much more competitive. So even if there is much more capital, there is so much competition.
Yep.
So you need to show the numbers. United States, the top SAS, AS funds like Emergence Capital and so on, they know they approached by very solid companies.
Like data scientific. They're like we have to have. I think like what is it, like 1 million revenue run rate, and like they have like all the data and specifics that you know their investment.
So the level, your level of scientific of analytics should be, I would say, in average higher in comparison with the kind of presentation that you are performing to European investors, and you will be typically, I would say, larger average dimension will be appreciated.
Got it. And another audience question. Thank you for answering that, and Marta, thank you for asking that question. We had a question from Alicia Eastman. She was wondering, what is the what is the identity, or what type of Italian company would American investors be most eager to invest in?
Okay, I would say that first of all, the cross-border investments or cross-continent investments in venture capital are not so common in general, so independently from Italy, Spain, or other countries, because typically venture capital funds, they want to join the board of the companies where they invest in. So they want to control and monitor the behavior of the company. So typically VC funds, they invest on a local geographic level, but with some exceptions. So for instance, there is with Endeavor, we work with a fund called Catalyst, and is a San Francisco-based fund which is investing all over the world. And why they do this? Because it's part of their investment strategy, and they are helped by local organizations to select the deal flow and put a validation on the investments. When you want to invest abroad, you need some kind of local due diligence, because every market is different, and otherwise it's very hard to invest from thousands of miles.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think we're still waiting for a few more questions. Submissions are going to be closing in 2 minutes. I actually had another question. If entrepreneurs that are listening to this and are going to be seeing this live feed, the feed after the event, if they wanted to reach out to Endeavor, what's the best way for them to go through the Endeavor process? Let's say they're not at the level of, we've raised a ton of capital yet, or whatever. Like, how does that process work for Endeavor, and what actually is the typical target of a company that Endeavor looks at when Endeavor wants to get involved with a high impact entrepreneur?
Of course, we are looking for companies with at least a couple of millions of revenue, and of course, a significant growth trajectory. We are looking for entrepreneurs with, I would say, high ambition with low ego. So entrepreneurs that are willing to be successful, but they understand that in order to join the next level, they need to change, to be open to feedbacks, and to speak with people from different countries, different industries, and take benefit from the mentorship. And the third criteria is the tipping point. So typically there are moments, because you are raising around or expanding to another country, where a network like Endeavor can help you the most, And so we are looking for these tipping points. If you are below the 2 million threshold, we have programs dedicated for smaller companies. One is called Elevator, and we have a call now, which will land in the end of September. And also we have a call for women, so a program for women entrepreneurs, even for startups in the earlier stage of their life cycle.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I think we have one more audience question, trying to see if we do or not. But I actually have a question. I'm looking through here because we had a few questions that actually came via email as well. So what would be the advice to Italian? This is actually from I got a message just now. What would be your advice to Italian entrepreneurs looking to create companies that'll change the way we live, work, and socialize? How can they have the same kind of impact that the Endeavor entrepreneurs had? And that'll be our last question.
Wow, it's not an easy one. I will say two things. The first thing is start from yourself. So if you want to change the way in which we live or work, don't try to catch the trends or the latest catchword. Even if it's very strange, try to find a problem that you have directly, and or your circle of friends or workmates they have directly, and try to solve this. It is one of the best source of startup ideas if you are looking for an idea. If you already have your idea or your prototype, I will say that choosing the right co-founders is the truly key decision for increasing your chances of success. And it's very easy to change the business model or the product at the beginning, but it's very hard to change the co-founder. So try to marry the right people.
That makes sense. Well, I really appreciate the time. I actually have a question. So you're in Milano right now, right?
Yeah.
So that's Milan behind us on the screen. I'm envious because wanted to be hosting Techtalia in person. But I had one quick question. So if I were to be heading to Italy next year and wanting to hang out in Milan, where would you take me? It's more of a personal question, but because Techtalia is both business, tech, and culture, was wondering if me or someone else were visiting, what would be the perfect aperitif place and your suggestions in Milan?
Okay, I think you should go to Navigli, which is a wonderful place with a small river full of young people and bohemian in attitude, and that will be the start. And then maybe the day after, you should go to Isola, the Quartiere Isola, which is right behind me, which is, I would say, now the tech district in Italy with the all multinational companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so on, and also full of very interesting places for young people.
Awesome. Well, Raffaele, thank you so much for the time. I'm really happy that Endeavor Italy is a sponsor. I know this is going to be a start to a long relationship with us. And next year, of course, we're doing this in person. And if people need to reach out to Endeavor, we'll make sure to post it on the website. And thank you so much for the time. And of course, tomorrow we have our panel with Alessandro talking about female entrepreneurship in Italy. So the audience gets 2 days worth of Endeavor conversations. So thank you so much for the time, and have a wonderful rest of the week. And thanks for being on the call this late.
Thank you, and may the force be with you.